Deep attachment is often mistaken for something loud, grand romantic gestures, or constant digital updates. In reality, the most dangerous connections are silent, pulling two people together until the boundary between them vanishes. Consider a man named Leo. Leo prided himself on absolute independence. He needed no one, until he attended a mundane birthday party and met Sarah. She sat in a corner, quiet, barely touching her drink. When Leo sat next to her, she didn't try to impress him. She simply looked at him. Her gaze lingered a fraction of a second too long, studying him in a way he had never experienced. Sarah's presence signaled the beginning of a specific psychological enmeshment, a process that leaves 5 distinct traces on a person's life. Warning tone. Once you recognize these behaviors, you cannot unsee them. They act as a psychological tripwire, forcing you to look at every relationship in your life and ask exactly who is pulling the strings. This diagram shows the mechanism behind the first sign, emotional mirroring. This happens when someone subconsciously reflects your internal state. Their brain is literally synchronizing with yours, adopting your exact emotional frequency. For Leo, this started small. He would come home from a tense day at the office and put on a fake smile. Without Leo saying a single word about his day, Sarah would sit across from him and her shoulders would slump. Her voice would drop. She absorbed his hidden stress like a sponge, feeling his exact emotional weight. As the weeks passed, a second behavior emerged, the protective shadow. This is the instinct to quietly position oneself in the background, acting as a human shield to catch a partner before they fall. Leo was a part-time artist, and during his first major gallery opening, he overheard a wealthy collector mock his work. Before Leo could even process the insult, Sarah stepped directly into the collector's personal space. She delivered a rebuke so quiet and sharp that the man turned pale and left the building. She defended Leo's honor before he even fully registered the attack. Extreme empathy looks beautiful in the early stages of a relationship, but when someone mirrors you that intensely, they lose their own baseline identity. If Leo was happy, Sarah glowed. If he was angry, she was on edge. She had become a mere echo of his own soul. The third sign is a hyper-vigilance of detail. One night, Leo sat silently at his desk, staring at a blank canvas. Sarah walked in, placed a glass of water down exactly where he liked it, and whispered that his father would have been proud of him today. Leo froze. It was the anniversary of his father's passing. He hadn't told her, yet she had anticipated his grief based purely on the heaviness of his walk. That intense observation naturally bleeds into the fourth sign, the sacrifice of self-interest. Healthy relationships rely on equitable give and take, but under severe attachment, that balance collapses. One partner's needs overwrite the other's. Sarah dropped her hobbies and friends, not because Leo demanded it, but to erase her personal preferences and make room for Leo's life. This absolute erasure leads directly to the fifth sign and the breaking point of the relationship, the silent presence. At this stage, physical distance feels like a literal wound. If Leo went to the garage, Sarah brought a book just to sit near the sound of his breathing. She didn't need to speak, she just needed to be tethered to him. The tension snapped when Leo received a year-long artist residency in Europe. He told Sarah he had to go alone. Instead of crying or fighting for the relationship, she gave him a blank nod, walked into the bedroom, and silently began packing his bags. She was entirely willing to destroy her own reality for his happiness. When a partner disappears entirely into your needs, the dynamic fractures. Love ceases to be a partnership. Having someone exist solely for your comfort transforms into an unbearable, crushing responsibility. Leo went to Europe. He spent months looking at incredible art and living his dream. Yet when he saw something beautiful, his first instinct was to turn around and show Sarah. The haunting absence of her devotion weighed so heavily on him that he booked an early flight home to surprise her. He arrived at their apartment and turned his key. The space was completely vacant. No furniture, no pictures, stripped bare to the floorboards. Panicking, Leo tracked down the landlord to ask where Sarah went. The landlord just looked at him, completely confused. He told Leo that the apartment had been vacant for 6 months, and Leo was the only tenant ever listed on the lease. Desperate, Leo pulled out his phone, scrolling furiously through hundreds of photos of their life together. But as he looked closely at the gallery opening, the park, and the kitchen table, his heart stopped. In every single image, he was completely alone. Sarah never existed. The mirroring, the protective shadow, the hyper-vigilance, none of it was the behavior of a devoted partner. They were the symptoms of Leo's own profound, unacknowledged loneliness. Under enough pressure, the human mind constructs a complete hallucinated reality, a psychological phantom built simply to keep the heart from breaking under the weight of true isolation. Psychologists call this projection. Our brains map our most desperate internal needs onto external figures, and when no one is actually there to receive those projections, the mind is entirely capable of inventing someone who is. We hallucinate emotional mirroring because we're starved for validation. We invent a protective shadow because we feel entirely unsafe. We imagine someone watching our every move because we desperately want proof that our existence matters to someone else. Look closely at the people in your life. Are you truly experiencing intense mutual attachment, or are you simply looking into a mirror, terrified of being alone in the room? The most dangerous attachment is the one we form with the illusion of being loved. Recognizing that reflection is the only way to keep your own loneliness from becoming a permanent psychological prison.